Hello everyone, and welcome to the free and live Joomla Search Engine Optimization webinar hosted by cloudaccess.net. We apologize about the slight delay. We wanted to make sure that our presentation was all ready to go and that our GoToMeeting software is allowing us to record this webinar so we can post it to our YouTube channel when we're done. So if at any point in the future you want to come back and review what we cover today, you can always go to youtube.com/cloudaccess. My name is Bernie. I'll be your moderator today, and Gary Brooks is going to be your host. He'll be joining us shortly. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of what Gary's going to cover, and then at the end of this presentation, I'm going to help Gary moderate some of your questions and answers. So if anything occurs to you along the way, feel free to post a question into the slide out question and answer area. Now know that we do have a few hundred people attending today's webinar, and if we don't get to your question, we apologize, but we do have some time constraints to work with today. Now Gary's going to be joining us shortly, but just to give you a very basic idea of what he's going to talk about, he's going to help you optimize your entire Joomla website for search engines so that your site will register on search engine result pages. So actually I think Gary's here. Gary, how are you doing today?
Hi everybody, I'd like to thank you for being patient with me. A little bit of hiccup with trying to get the Citrix software going here, so we're going to go ahead and get going with this session.
All right,
and
Gary.
Bernie, if you don't mind, hand me over the power, and I'll get going on the presentation. All right, everybody, we're going to quickly jump into. We're going to step through this quite efficiently and speak a little bit about the basics of SEO, and then a little bit deeper detail into actually how we would architect some of the search engine optimization into our Joomla site. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Gary Brooks. I'm CEO of cloudaccess.net, and I'm a proud owner of a PageRank 8 site. And if you're not familiar with PageRank, it's system that Google created and allows you to somewhat measure and indicate how powerful your website is. And it's pretty hard to get to an 8. It's impossible to get to what we consider a 10 in PageRank. And if you have a 1, 2, or 3, you're just a baby and you're trying to work your way up the search engine rankings. And go ahead and talk a little bit about things, and we jump into people are talking about how to optimize the site, and I'm going to show you case examples of some of these things and how exactly these integrate into the site and how you would take advantage of putting text on your Joomla site. And you can also do this in standard HTML. It's called optimizing your titles, descriptions, headers, anchor text, images, and files. And we talk about what is an H1, and if you haven't been witness to what is an H1, H1 is quite simple. We're going to jump around into the Joomla site a little bit here and show you. Is when you're inside of your Joomla system and you're creating an article, you go into the article manager and you create a brand new article in your Joomla site. You'll see you get your editor here, and in HTML world we have something called a header. And when you're planning your content for your Joomla site, you would always plan on starting your article with a header area. So for example, if my title was going to be, I was going to be searching for fishing in Michigan, and I was planning to try to target that key phrase, I would of course put a title, and then I would write some text here, text about fishing. And then we would do is we'd highlight the text, and in your editor you can select these heading areas. They're called headings. And headings are kind of associated in two ways. One, they're styles, because you can style a heading, and two is when you select it, it's a visual thing typically, and when you look at the HTML, for example, we'll go ahead and take a look at the HTML here. I did highlight that text, and I clicked on your HTML, and if you're using a different editor like JCE editor, of course you can you can actually see it a little bit different way. You can click on the HTML button that's in JCE Editor. Notice that we've got this opening tag and closing tag here that says that that's a header. Google and all the other search engines do recognize that you have headers. They want to make sure that you have a heading, so it's always typically standard that you would start your article with a header. And people kind of ask you, well, you know, what if I wanted to do an H2 header in the same fashion, say fishing in Texas, right? Well, that's really not proper SEO, is to put two headers right next together. You would typically separate the headers from each other, and an example would be you would push this down and you'd put another set of text in. For example, let's grab some text here. Let's grab this text right here, push it into it. Back to the editor, put the text in there, and now we have an area here where we do this. So this is a good example of what it would look like to properly format an article for SEO. You would have a H1, finish this, closing tag, and of course you don't have to memorize this HTML because it's really not needed. I'm doing it in the editor just to show you, so if you can update this, you can see that you can highlight that, and you could have done it with the editor. You could have done an H2 here like that, and then if you go back and look at the HTML, you'll see that we have an H1, which is a header tag, and then you have a paragraph here, and then that ended up being a paragraph, but really in this world we really wanted an H2. So sometimes the editors act goofy on us and we do have to change them. So H2 and update. So, and that gives us in a position where Google's going to recognize this, or other search engines are going to recognize this article as fishing. Okay, let's save this article, and we're going to jump back to the presentation real quick and speak about other parts of optimizing your site for search engine optimization. All right, does H2 matter? Well, it does matter. H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6, they all matter. It doesn't matter in what significant order you put them in. For example, I did H1 and H2. It's common that you're going to make the H1 the first one, and it's common you're going to make H2 the second one. And it doesn't necessarily mean you always need to use your the heading tags, but you should architect your site in a way that you always have a common standard, not only for just branding purposes, but also for usability of your website. And of course, Google and the search engines recognize these. And we're going to talk more about this a little bit later. We have anchor text. It earns you SEO points, and that is correct. It does earn you SEO points. It earns you quite a bit of SEO points to put anchor text inside of your links. So to give you an example, I'll go ahead and come back to this editor. For the sake of making things a little simple, I'm going to start at the beginning. If I had an article and I wanted to create an anchor text, you can use Core Joomla to do this. You could, for example, highlight a set of text here, and when you're going to link to something, for example, if you want to link to an article, select the article there, and I'm going to make this a little bit easier for you guys because right now we're using the core editor. It's called TinyMCE, and as far as usability goes and search engine optimization, it's not probably the best editor because, for example, notice I highlighted that link and it created that link, and I'm typically supposed to be able to put an anchor text there. I could go manually do it, since a lot of us are probably on this call aren't familiar with exactly how to go in and manually put anchor text on a link. You'll notice that here, this has got the href link there, href, that creates the link to another article. Well, we missed a little bit of search engine optimization that we could do here on this link, where you've probably seen it before. You rubbed your mouse over a link on a website and you've seen the little text pops up. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a few reasons. Is one, if you plan that properly, blind people who browse your site and run their mouse or whatever tool they're using over a particular link can understand what that's for. So you'd explain that that link was something. All right. So to show you how to create an anchor text, I'm going to change the editor in the system. Go back to global configuration in Joomla and switch my editor to something called JCE editor. I'm going to hit save here. I'm going to back out to the content article manager. I'm going to click on phishing. Editor is going to open up again. We're going to select a different word right now. We're going to select currently running here. And I'm going to go to this little Lincoln icon here. See this? It says link and edit anchor. Link and edit anchor, and I'm using JCE editor. And we're going to call that, let's call that phishing also. Insert that. Excuse me, rewind here. We're going to do that, highlight that again. And then we're going to use the insert and edit link. And we're going to put in a URL to an alternate site. Let's just pretend we're going to do that to Google. This is called an external link. And we're going to put a title on that that says, I'm linking to Google for SEO, and then insert that. Now, I'm going to save that article. For the sake of teaching a little bit about this getting and actually put on the site, this is about Joomla step rather than actually SEO step, is that I want to actually create this this article that I put. I'm going to put it up on the menu item up there. So I'm going to go to the menu system here real quick, and I'm going to create a new article, or excuse me, a new menu item, and I'm going to select what I want to link it to. I'm going to select it to a single article. Many times in Joomla you have an opportunity to select all kinds of stuff here. And for SEO purposes, I like to architect my URLs. And part of architecting your URLs in Joomla is that you would use the single article option quite often. So I select my single article. I'm going to call the menu title Fishing in Texas. And the reason you notice I said fishing in Michigan and I said fishing in Texas quite a bit. And then there's this alias, you'll see this alias URL. If you look carefully, in Joomla, you rub your mouse over some of these settings, you'll see it says the alias will be used in the CEF URL. Leave it blank and Joomla will find the default value from the title. If the values depend on SEO settings and global configuration. So I could go further and read that whole thing, but if you just kind of, in your brain, if you memorize in Joomla world that the alias typically is going to render a URL. So I'm going to call that title fishing in, let's pick another state. Let's, how about, what's a good one? Utah. How about Utah? So fishing in Utah. So I'm going to save that here, and I'm going to actually select the article, which is a fishing article. Hit save. Now what we've done is we've created two menu items. We've got home and we've got fishing in Texas. So when I go back to the front page of my Joomla site, I'm going to refresh this site, and I'm going to see something special here. I'm going to see fishing in Texas. Well, wonderful. Now when I click on fishing in Texas, notice what happened up here was that I ended up with a fishing in Utah.html. Well, what I'm doing at this point is I'm architecting my URL, and I'm planning basically to, well, it's kind of, I would say that it's not the best planning, because look, I have multiple, I have Utah up here, I have fishing here, I have fishing in Michigan, and then I have fishing in Texas. Well, that is really, really dirty. That's not how you do SEO. You wouldn't, the Google search engine would probably be quite confused, especially knowing that possibly I was trying to architect this article to be all about fishing in Utah. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do some things to re-architect this, so this whole article is all about fishing in Utah, and then separately I'm going to go create one that's fishing in Michigan, so we can tell the difference between how to actually architect your website to be friendly with search engine optimization. All right, so step through this quickly, knowing that I'm happy with everything being Utah based here on this particular one. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do Utah here on this one. Hit save on this menu item. I'm in the menu item. Now I'm going to go back to my content, and then I'm going to click on this fishing title here. I'm going to switch the title to Fishing in Utah again. And then notice the alias here, it says Fishing in Michigan. Well, there's reasons why you change these alias URLs, because in the future when you're using the dynamics of the CMS, it is going to call upon these aliases in some sense, and it's going to be off if you don't plan ahead. So Fishing in Utah, Fishing in Utah, Fishing in Utah. This is my H1. Keep in mind this is my H1. So if we look at the HTML here again, just to confirm, in it in JCE, I'll give you an example how to look at the HTML. It's right in this little gadget here. Notice this is H1 and then Fishing in Utah, then it commences into the paragraph. So hit save there. And now I'm going to change that to Fishing in Utah. That's an H2. Remember, this is an H2 in this area right here. So we have, in our article, we have an H1, we have a paragraph, we have an H2, and then we have another paragraph. So what I'm doing right now is, again, back to the word architecting, is I'm telling Google and anyone that's going to scan my site that, man, this is really about fishing in Utah, and I would really love to land in the search engine under that particular key phrase, is fishing in Utah. And there would be some content work here you would do. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And then remember that link we created where we architected that small area there with the link. I'm going to change that also so it's fishing in Utah. All right. And do you notice that this editor has all these little areas you can fill in? Well, there's a reason that you fill these in, is because one, it's friendly for search engine optimization, and two, you use these for the blind. The search engines for the blind will use some of these extra text that you have. It's very important that you you do the tooltips and make it quite usable for people who are on your site. So, all right. So now I have an article that's perfectly architected to fit in search engine for possibly, hopefully, landing in the search engine when Google comes around and searches for the site again. It's going to see my site, and it's going to say, oh man, great, look at this, fishing in Utah, and it hits this article, and everything about it is saying here's the URL, and then we go into the actual menu item is fishing in Utah. We have what's considered our H1 is fishing in Utah. I would, of course, when I'm architecting my SEO, I get rid of this. This is content management system stuff, and there's a way I can get rid of that, and I would get rid of it. In fact, I wouldn't leave it there, because when I'm planning my search engine optimization campaign, when I'm targeting particular phrases, like this phrase is fishing in Utah, there's no reason to have this extra stuff in the way. You would always make sure that you plan your content to be only everything that you see here, only about just that, just your topic. And when you get fancy at doing SEO, what you can do is you can look at the source, and in your browser, whether you use Chrome or you use Firefox or any other tool that you use, there's a way that you can view the source, and it's under Tools in Chrome, and you can see View Source, and got all this stuff up here, and you could kind of dig into and say, well, you're not supposed to have all this, when you look at the source of SEO, you're not supposed to have all this extra stuff. It's a lot of stuff for the search engine to muck through, to worry about that it's trying to get to the information that you need. But for people who are just getting started in search engine optimization, you don't really go that deep. You just, you do your best, efforts, and especially if you're using a content management system, it's more about just doing whatever you can within the system that you're provided, and if you're not an expert, just doing what I'm teaching you now is going to be your best case. So if you look in the source, notice my H1 is here. Google will look at this, and Google will also look at the meta information, which we'll talk about later, but the meta information is up here. We didn't fill anything in much, so you see this right here, it's meta information. Notice the meta information has some kind of weird information in there, like about your template, and it says the name generator, and some of this is auto-generated, so you can plan to get rid of some of that auto-generated things, and that's what we're going to be doing throughout the webinar here. So let's keep going. For the sake of the next article, I'm going to go ahead and do this quickly. I'm going to create a second menu. I'm going to create a second article. I typically always create my articles first when I'm doing my SEO stuff, and then secondary I'll link my menu items. So I'm going to do fishing in Michigan. And copy and paste here into the title. Do that, and then grab some text here from let's grab this text here again. Let's put in a paragraph. You're not supposed to, I made a mistake there, you're really not supposed to copy and paste from, especially in search engine optimization, please never copy and paste from any editor other than text editor. I always will take my text from any Google Doc or from Word or whatever you're making your content in, and I'll copy and paste it to just Notepad or the equivalent of whatever you have there. So that way I don't have any goofy HTML text, copy and paste it into the editor. And people sometimes say use the cleanup tools inside of this stuff, but don't count on that. Don't try to plan for that. I'm going to do fishing in Michigan, and I'm going to do H2. You really wouldn't put that there, but I'm just trying to show you that this is H1. And so now we put a second paragraph. I'm going to highlight this text. I'm going to use the paragraph area in JCE. You can just click on that and click on heading 1. So I'm going to get heading 1. The template does give us the style, so whatever template you're using is going to style this. It's not anything to do with SEO. It's just your template CSS that makes that look big and pretty. And then you do the H2, and that's coming from the styles. To Google, Google's not really looking at the styles. In the case, it's actually just looking at the, hey, that's an H1, that's an H2, and then we have paragraphs of text in between, and they're going to read that paragraphs of text, and they're going to make a decision based on on-page content and information that you put in for titles, meta, and body content. So go ahead and save this again, and then at this point we are going to dive into a little bit of description, knowing that we're going to be doing fishing in Michigan. So the meta description is fishing in Michigan. And keywords, I'm not going to put the keywords right now. There's a reason. We're going to explain that in later in the webinars, that you don't need keywords right now. It's not the important fact. Some people sit here and type in, comma, word, this is how you're supposed to do it, word, and then, actually everything has to do with it's related to this article. But it is not required anymore. We do have it in Joomla. Some search engines still look at that. We might be talking about old search engines, like maybe something like Dogpile. I don't have enough reference to tell you that which ones exactly still look at the keywords, but the major search engines really care more about the description, and it's important you always fill in the description in the system. And descriptions are usually about 2 to 3 sentences, and they are related to the topic of the conversation that you're writing about in the article. I'm going to hit save here. And I'm going to finish this by, if we look at the front page of the site again, if I refresh it, notice my link is not there. I'm going to create a link there. I'm going to go to menu, my main menu. I'm going to create a new one here, a new menu item. I'm going to go back to select. The select when you create a new menu item, and when you're architecting your search engine optimization campaign, single article is probably the most popular. That way you're planning for one menu item linking to a single piece of content. Select that, and then I'm going to go fishing in Michigan. And remember we talked about aliases in Joomla being a way you can architect the URL. For the case of showing you how you can architect it, I am going to put ARC at the end here, and blah, 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 to show you how cool you can make your URLs. And I am going to select my article. This is core Joomla features, nothing to do with SEO. So fishing in Michigan. And I'm going to hit save. All right. Now, we're going to go back to the site. I'm going to refresh it, and I should have successfully created a second menu item. So now, what is exciting about my site is I've got a fishing in Utah, and I've got that thing architected so the URL is fishing in Utah, the content is fishing in Utah, and then I also have a Michigan one where I have a fishing in Michigan, article and notice that I architected the URL to say blah 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 blah. That's how you use the alias URLs in Joomla. So Efficient Michigan, H1, H2. And while we're in here, I'm going to show you how to get rid of this extra stuff, because when I'm building a site for search engine optimization, especially when I'm planning a small site for maybe local, where I'm targeting maybe not an international market, you don't need this extra content management system stuff there. It's more about just laying out the content how you want to see it, and less about how the content management system indexes it and gives you information of what date or what article or who was posted by. And in Joomla, in the back end of the system, you can do this by going to Content, Article Manager, and then you have some settings up here. There, it's called Options. So I just go through and make it real simple. I hide the titles, I hide the links, hide the categories, hide pretty much everything, show author, hide the published date, the navigation. I leave the read more because sometimes we might use the read more, and I'll explain that later. That's about the only one that leaves shown. Hide, 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 hide. So now I am done hiding. Save and close. Now I'll go back to the front page of my site that I'm architecting for search engine optimization, and you'll notice that everything disappeared. So now all we're living with is the content that I put into the site. Okay. Let's go back to our presentation. Go back to Alright, so we talked about structuring the URL. It does count that you structure the URL when you're planning your campaign. Now, in Joomla world, we end up with this people build these websites. They build these massive websites, and they really get worried about how the URL looks all the time. And what I give people the advice is this: is that if you're just building the site and the front page and a lot of content off of maybe internal pages isn't pretty, or like you install an extension like some social extension, maybe a directory, it kind of goes on. In Joomla world, you can install all kinds of extensions. There's all, you just get crazy installing extensions, and then sometimes those extensions render ugly URLs. Where I get a little frustrated is I see people install these like SH404 Ceph or something like that. Nothing against that software, but Joomla has everything in the core to enable to be able to architect a URL. And if you're planning a campaign, an SEO campaign, then there's no reason to try to make everything pretty, everything exactly beautiful with the URL structure, because honestly you're never going to hit the nail on the head, and then you're just going to cause yourself migration troubles when you're trying to get from a previous version of Joomla to a newer version of Joomla, and then you have to plan what's considered all the 301 redirects to make sure that the URLs that you had in the previous system get moved to the new system. This kind of becomes this hairball of a mess. So what I try to tell people is, it's not everything in your site doesn't have to be SEO friendly. Just plan the articles that you need to be SEO friendly, and we'll get into something that's called planning your long tail SEO campaign. Okay, so getting links from who? We talk about page rank and how you get popular on the internet, or why do people get to the top of the search engine? And you go to Google and you type, for example, you get, it's probably could be a good example is I should be at the top, but we didn't actually plan this. So I do Joomla hosting, right? And notice that cloudaccess.net is at the top of the Joomla hosting ranks here. It's pretty nice that we're in that zone. And of course, you go down the list and you'll see a lot of the. You notice the titles are Joomla hosting, cloud hosting. The word Joomla's in there. Joomla hosting, Joomla hosting. Well, how do you get there, and how do you raise to the top of the ranks? Well, it's not your decision to get there, other than there's a lot of pre-labor that you need to do to get to that destination. And one of the more popular ways to get to the top of the search engine is getting links. And people like, well, how do you get links and where do you get them? And I hear people are buying them, or I hear people are going out. I found this service and you pay them $39.95 and they say that they give you 10,000 links. And don't do that stuff. Just stay away from any of those services that tell you they get links. It's real architecturally simple to get links. You can ask a friend of yours that owns a website to write a blog about you, and in the blog they should create an article with a link facing back to your site. Now, you can't just arbitrarily go out and try to get anyone to link to you or to blog about you without having some sense about it, because you can't, if your friend owns a mechanic site and you're a fishing site and you're getting him to blog about you on his mechanic site, and it's not relevant. So when Google does the math and says, okay, great, you've got a link coming to your site and it's coming from this mechanic site, and all of a sudden it's like you only have mechanic friends, but you're creating a fishing site, and you go out and you get your 100 mechanic friends to link to you all to your fishing site. Well, that's not quite what we consider relevant. So it's really not a good situation to just go out and just find any random person to link to you. There is ways to, again, the word architect is to go out and reach out to or make friends in the same vertical that you're in. So if you're a fishing type site, then go out and find fishing buddies and ask them to write blogs about you and link to your site. All right? And it's not just about maybe just a blog linking to you. There's other ways you can get what we consider the backlinks facing your site. And that's what makes you popular. Google or Yahoo and all the search engines, they look at your site and they say, well, it's freestanding there, it's sitting. Well, who's pointing at Cloud Access, or who's pointing at that fishing site? And if you have no one pointing at you, if you have no links coming back to your site, you have no value. You're just kind of there, and Google will just generically insert you in the search engine, and you'll probably most likely be able to find yourself if you search under like the phrase that is about your business, and or maybe, but if your phrase is like fishing, just fishing, and you're expecting to be found under fishing, and you have no links to you, there's no way you're going to raise to the top of the search engine just by putting the words on your site. I mean, it's actually a competition at the top of the search engine. So coming back to Google again, is these here. It's kind of this is kind of weird, because this actually showed me a local map of Traverse City, which is the area that I'm in, and it's using geolocation to do that. So excluding that Google just gave me these results, because this is not search engine rankings here, or excuse me, this is not organic rankings. It starts right here. It's kind of a you might not notice it, but organic rankings with Google are down here. So when I type in fishing, I'm getting these other sites, and you'll notice is typically these sites are older sites. They have hundreds, maybe thousands of pages about fishing, and they have lots of friends linking to them saying that they're a good site with the quality information all about fishing. So when you're on page 10, if you were trying to target that phrase and you were on page 10 and you wanted to get to the top of the search engine, well, to raise to the top, the best equation is make sure you do your on-page SEO, which is stuff I was teaching you, architecting it directly on the Joomla site. Get somewhere in the rankings here, and then at this point, now you need to try to get links to face you. You need to get someone to point at your site with relevant links. So Google says, wow, this person's really popular, and we need to push them up higher in the search engine. They've got a lot of great content about fishing. They've got people linking from all over the world to them, and voila, somehow you start getting up the search engines. And Google does make a tool for you for you to be able to track some of that stuff. It's called Webmaster Tools. You do have to register Webmaster Tools. I'm just going to search for it there, and it's called Google Webmaster Tools. That is something at the cloudaccess.net team will help you with if you need help registering your Joomla site to Webmaster Tools. You can simply log in here and then register your site. You have to put a little bit of snippet of code on your site and validate. You have to validate the site basically with Google, and then Google's going to give you a whole bunch of backend information about your site. And we're not going to get into Webmaster Tools, but it's something you need to do if you're going to do search engine optimization. You need to see the picture of what Google thinks about your site, and that's a great way to see a picture of how many backlinks you have, and along with other things that Google wants you to know about your search engine optimization. Okay. Another way to get links is called link bait. I'll give you a secret of how cloudaccess.net does link bait. We actually give out templates, and so when people go to cloudaccess.net and they click on our here, when they go to products and they go to, for example, we go to templates. Excuse me, I got to find my own product here. There it is, excuse me. And then I'll click on templates. Well, we give out these templates for free, and people download them, and they might be hosting with GoDaddy or with, we don't really mind who they host with. They just, we're a community member, so we give out these templates, not as a primary function for search engine optimization, but as an added benefit. People end up downloading these templates, hauling them to whatever service they're using, installing the template, and at the footer of the site there's a link back to our site that says cloud hosting. Since I'm a cloud hosting company, I'd like to get a lot of relevant links back to my site about cloud hosting, so that's considered what's called a link bait idea. And a lot of companies, actually, if you type the term link bait in the search engine and SEO, we'll find that companies charge for link bait. It's actually a service that SEO companies will offer you by creating some kind of architectural way for people to maybe they download white papers, or they force you to link to the website somehow by getting information from you. Maybe you offer a WordPress widget, or those little modules you install on the side. People who do go to extensions.joomla.org, you'll notice sometimes when you download an extension that it has a marking on it. It actually has like a link back to the developer's site. That's a form of link bait, actually linking back to the site. And if you can think of a good link bait idea, that's the best way to raise your page rank, is to find a way that you don't have to work or go out and talk to friends to blog and link to your site and to get links back to you. Just naturally get links from someone that's out there doing something that you put out there as a link bait idea. And a little bit further we go, let's a little bit in this. And then internal linking. Internal linking is real simple. You link in your website. Imagine this. Let's just say you're trying to get to, for example, in Google, you're trying to get to fishing in Utah. So you create this article, this wonderful article, and you see all these people here that are in fishing in Utah. And so you've created a website, and here's our site right here, and it says fishing in Utah. Well, if it were the case, and this site was already indexed, and it was on like page 30 of the search engine, then how do I get it to the top? Well, one is I can try to get people to link to this URL, this full URL. I can create a link bait idea that links to what's called an internal URL, so it becomes a more popular page. Google sees what's called backlinks and says, wow, you have 100 backlinks to this URL. You must be super popular. This must be an awesome article that everyone wants to see, so we have to put you on the top of the search engine. Well, there's that way of actually getting people to link to you, and then there's the other way called internal linking. So if you had 100 articles on your site and you had this fishing in Utah article here, and you only had one link out of all 100 pages linking to your own page, why do you think Google would think that that's an important article? It's not going to be, because you only have one path to it. So if you've got a humongous site and you only actually physically create one path to a single article, then it's not going to be something that you're going to see in the top of the search engine. So it's important to create what's called internal linking, and I can show you real quick in Joomla how to create an internal link. It's real simple. You pick an alternate article from the one that you're targeting to link to an opposite one, and it typically is going to be you would see this a lot in sites where people all the time blog or they write something, you'll be reading an article, right? You read the article and you see little links inside of it, and when you see the link, it's like, oh, that link is linking to another page on that same person's site. So it's, for one, it's, you get usability out of it, which a lot, kind of keeps people on your page, and they read an article and they click on the link and it goes to another page. Well, the other half of it is internal linking, and Google does count internal links on internal pages, so you want to try to create as many efficient links as you can. So if I were to do it properly, if I were writing something, for example, in SEO world, I would say in the fishing article, I would say other places that have great great fish is Utah, other than Michigan. Not a real proper statement, but here, so now I've created content here that is just relative to the article and, natural feeling. You don't go in and just put something goofy in there. You actually, it has to be relative. And then you're like, okay, so great. I know I have an article on fishing in Utah, so I'm going to create what's called an internal link. So I highlight that text, and I go to my little linking gadget here, and I find in JCE, this is easy to navigate to it. So I'm going to go to my uncategorized content, and I'm going to locate my fishing in Utah article, and I'm going to click on it. I'm going to fill in my title because I want my title to be fishing in Utah. Great place. And then I hit insert. So now what I've done is I've created this internal link. Notice when I run my mouse over it, I've got my title popping up. That's really friendly. And now I've hit the save on article. I go to a page of my site. I hit refresh. Click on home. Click on fishing in Utah. And fishing in Michigan. I'm in fishing in Michigan. Remember, I edited the fishing in Michigan article. And now look at, I've created an internal link. It says fishing in Utah, great place. And I click on it, and it takes me over to the fishing in Utah article. Effectively, what I've done is I've created an internal link. And if Google's nice to me, it's going to count that as an internal link, and it's going to see value in that. It's going to actually say, well, this site about fishing, they really, really are excited about this article, and they have other places on their site that are linking to that content. So stick to this rule. Don't just write content for fun and think that it's all going to magically connect. It's like creating a dynamic sitemap inside of your content. You got to link all over the place. You should have thousands of links once you have thousands of pages, and so that's an awesome way to raise your rankings if you want to raise your page rank. And then we have blogging about each other. We went into that. Go out, find friends in similar industries to blog about you. You're going to get people to talk about three-way links. A lot of times people used to trade links, like, you got a site, I got a site, let's link to each other. And they would just like generically put it on the side of the page or something weird like that. Well, the best bet is to create what's called a three-way link, and it is kind of some people call it black hat SEO. It isn't really, because no one can really figure out that you're doing it, is that you might have two sites about fishing. So if you're really planning an SEO campaign, you might want to create two authoritative sites about fishing. This way, what you can do is you can go out and you can talk to a friend and say, I've got two fishing sites, and what I need from you is I need a one-way link to my site. And why people say they need a one-way link is because there's more value in creating a one-way link than there is where you're just trading links back and forth. So you'll get some of these search engine optimization companies that go out and do link trading for you. And the way they do link trading is they typically have a resource of sites that they own where they're go out and bartering link exchanges in order to get you these one-way links, but really they're trading links. So when I say three-way link, it's like physical. Like site A is about one topic, site B is about another topic, and then site C is a friend which you're linking to, and you exchange links. But when Google sees them, it never sees it as a link exchange, which means site-facing site from friend to friend. It's actually like we have a third person involved, and that third site creates that kind of circle effect where Google doesn't recognize only but that you have a one-way link to your site, and there's no indicator that the third site was actually where you traded the link. And that's called three-way linking. If you get really effective into three-way linking, you probably should just read about it, go out and learn about three-way linking, create a second site that's used as your structure for three-way linking. Develop a long-tail SEO campaign. So again, this is we'll stay with the fishing topic. Google has a great keyword lookup tools. So you just Google keyword lookup tool, and there's other people that do keyword lookup tools. It isn't just Google. I just happen to use Google because they have the tool there available. They make the tool available because one, it's actually the source for when you're doing, like if you're doing like if I type in hosting over here, notice that these are ads over here, and these are ads too. Right here, ads, and then ads over here, and this is here in the middle. This is organic. This is not ads. This is, you have to work to get here. And Google invests a lot of time in their keyword research tool because they want people to be able to find keywords for their business that are relative to what they're doing business in. So if you're in the fishing business, and you're in the fishing business in Michigan, then there's probably a lot of keywords related to how and what and how people find fishing in Michigan, because people just don't type fishing because it's pointless typically to find fishing. Typically they might type in fishing in Traverse City, right? And that I consider a long tail phrase because it's not just fishing, right? Because people typically just don't type fishing. It's fishing somewhere. And how do you guess what people are typing? Don't you wonder, it's like, well, how do I know what people are typing? What's the magical formula so I can get in the search engines and get there? Well, the way you accomplish that is by going into, taking your site and thinking, keeping your site to a common vertical, meaning one topic or, kind of similar topic, and then going to a keyword lookup tool. And so I'm going to go back to my keyword lookup tool. And I'm going to use the tool. And it is quite a heavy little application here. So Google gives you the opportunity to target the phrase. So fishing, I'm going to do fishing in Michigan. And you could give it a URL to spit something out to you. Here, and what it's going to do is it's going to come back and feed you a whole bunch of phrases of people are typing things here. It's like, so wow, let's look at all these things. So I look at the numbers here. Look at this is monthly numbers, right? And what they do is they do what's called global monthly searches, and then local monthly searches, and then competition. And you can use some of the statistical data to try to figure out what you want to try to target. If you're brand new to SEO and you're like a page rank of 0, you can find out what your page rank is by finding, just go to Google and type in what is my Google page rank, and you're going to come up with the selections of tools. You can type in URL and it'll tell you what your page rank is. If you're anything less than 3, you really don't have a lot of power. And it does matter if you're in what competitive arena you're in when it comes to the search engines, because some of the search engine results are like really intense to try to compete with. So it would be really hard for me to say that if I had my brand new fishing site here that I'm created, it would be really hard for me to say that I was going to compete in the term fishing, right? Because the actual term fishing is, if I look it up here, and they probably didn't even show it to me, but it's a ridiculous hard word to hit. For example, let's just take fishing in Michigan here. Look at 74,000 hits and 6,500, and if I go back to the search engine and I type fishing in Michigan, I'm probably going to come up with, here we go. So notice I have ads up here. There's add, and then add. I use this as an indicator. When I see ads here, that means that there's money being spent, and there's money being spent here, and it's going to be harder to get to the top of the organic results here. So why try to compete in that arena now if you're brand new? If you're brand new to search engine optimization, why do you want to compete for the biggest key phrase? It's pointless, honestly. It's pointless. And if you're one of those people that are trying to be in that arena to try to say that you want to compete in the most popular key phrase of your particular industry, you probably are not going to be successful in your SEO campaign, and you're just going to get tired and you're going to want to give up. So what I tell people to do is say, go find your vertical, go get the keyword research tool, and start searching for the little ones or the medium ones. So for example, pike fishing in Michigan. It's little. Look at 200. it's like if I go to Google, I can type searches. There's not even ads over here. See it? There's no ads, and I'm here, and I have the Michigan Gov to compete with, but it's going to be much easier to compete with pike fishing here in Michigan than it is to try to compete and going back to the keyword tool and look at this big one here, this fish in Michigan. So if I go to that and search in that one in Google, I mean, well, luckily, actually, I don't see many ads there, so people aren't targeting ads in that particular space. But charter fishing in Michigan, we're going to see ads here. I'm pretty sure we're going to see ads. So here, fish ads, and of course, here people are probably trying to compete, and they've created websites with lots of links to that internal page. So back to my point. Long tail SEO campaign, planning content, trying to add a whole bunch of content to your site. Go do the keyword research, pull out your list. With this tool, you can either write it on a piece of paper, copy and paste them onto the side to a notepad, or Google does allow you to save the data here. You can actually use a little tool here like this, and somewhere here there's a save as text. You can dump your keywords and just learn how to use this tool. Pick out 100 words that are what we consider long tail, and don't pick the hardest words. Pick the lower ones, and go in and architect your pages for these little ones. Try to compete in this little range. So these little 390s and 320s and 590s, and start building your search engine optimization campaign around the long tail, easier to compete in key phrases. And it'll be a lot more successful than you are trying to compete in the bigger phrases. Once you get to the point where you're actually competing in these little phrases, then you can start to set up your guns so you can compete with the big dogs. Where you can actually go in and compete against the big phrases. It's pointless to try to start from the beginning with the big phrases. So I'm gonna jump back to my presentation here. Talk about this. Is about writing the content that is SEO long tail ready, and I've been doing this as an example for you during this presentation. This is a keyword that potentially could have came out of this Google keyword tool, right? And what you can do is in planning your content is making sure that one is what you'll notice is when I type in fishing in Michigan, you notice the title that shows up in the search engines. The title, it's here. This here, right there, these are typically the title of your article. And what I find a lot of companies doing is they're just forgetting to architect their titles. And I see a lot of sites, and I can even name one in Joomla world that I'm just like, well, why do you do that? You're a big company, and you have this. Look at you're this big company, but in your title, look what you've done. You put the word home. Why do you have the word home in your title? There's no point in having home in your title because it doesn't help you. It's just there, and Google doesn't think anything special of you. What would be better there, replaced there for this theme company, have been Joomla theme company. Something more of a popular phrase. So you want to make sure that you plan your titles. That's one. Two is, this is your title, right? Plan your alias. Make sure your URL structure is planned. Write your meta description to match your content to match your content, which is in the center here. Use your H1 tag, H2 tag, H3. It doesn't matter if you use H100s. There is a limit. You can't H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. Like stick in that zone, and use them. Make sure you weight your phrases here. This article should have content in the center about fishing in Michigan. So if I write this whole article and I never say in this text right here, if I never say fishing in Michigan, do you really think Google's going to put me in the area of the search engine where it says fishing in Michigan? No, not just, it could, maybe, if you get lucky, if you maybe put it as the title and maybe you had it in the header tag, but if you don't put it in the body content at all, or it isn't weighted at all, what we call weighted, then the likelihood of you being placed in the proper location of the search engine is going to be highly unlikely. And when you're planning your long-tail SEO campaign, meaning that you took 100 or so words and you wrote content for 100 and so words, then and if that's kind of like this effect where you're kind of splattering that content on the wall and seeing where Google's going to put you, well, you're not going to land anywhere pleasurable if you're not actually doing the time to write the content relative to what the keyword is. So let's reiterate here real quick. So if we're talking long tail and we're talking about long tail SEO campaign, what I tell people is this is how to plan is to make sure that one, build your site as normal. Forget about SEO when you build it. Forget it. Just build the site. Just have fun. Build the site. Secondary is go out and do your keyword research. Go out and actually pick out 100 words or whatever you think you can afford to write. Right? Whether you can write it or someone else writes it, doesn't matter. Go out and pick out 100 words, and then just start a document and start writing your titles, your descriptions, and then your body content. And at the end of the day, you're going to have targeted articles that would target the free key phrase that you want. And then what you're going to do is you go insert those in your Joomla site, and just how I taught you is go in and architect the titles, the URLs, and put everything in how you're supposed to. And then just save it on the site. Put it in an organized fashion. Whether you can make an article with a list to other articles. You can try to link them off the front page. Just try not to think about it too much. Just get the content on there. Get the 100 articles on there. I see so many people in Joomla world that are saying, well, I want to be successful on the internet. I want to be the leader of my area. And they create a Joomla website, and they create the front page, and they create 3 additional pages, and then they worry about all the graphics and all the stuff. And do you know how much Google cares about a graphic? Not enough to even worry about, really, honestly. The graphics are less of a value, although you can, there is kind of a SEO way to put a graphic in and have Google read it, and it does index it in its images thing, but that's not the value here. The value is that you want to get in the search engine somewhere, and if you're planning a long tail SEO campaign, it's much easier to say that you're going to try hard to hit 100 different phrases that are towards the middle of the rankings of the search engine than 3 pages of content and hitting nothing. So, why invest $2,000, $3,000 into your website when maybe you're driving just traffic to it and you just want people to go there and look at the pretty pictures, but that doesn't matter. That really doesn't matter. In the world of search engine optimization, in the world of long-term commitment to your business and to the future of your business and your employees, it should be that have an employee write an article every day. Go hire some writer from, even if you have to hire them from India. There's a lot of people from India or what I consider places where there might be a lower cost to acquire someone to write for you. Hire a friend, find a way, or write 100 articles. They don't need to be long articles. They can be about 800 words long and targeted towards the phrase that you have. Plan them out, get them in your Joomla site, and architect everything perfectly, and just splatter that content on the wall. Get it out there. Once it's out there, then you can worry about all the exterior stuff about how to get a sitemap in and how to do this and how to do that, and you have to go back and do internal linking, but you're never going to be successful if you never write the content. If you notice, Google only cares about words, and the words are what the value is, and if you never get the words on your site, what's the value of even trying? So there's my griping at you. Going a little bit into the writing the content, we kind of talked about that as in some way get someone to help you. Worry about keyword density in the articles. The keyword, the word is density. When you write your content, it's called it's planning the density based on the title that you write. Hire someone to help you. Do your keyword research. Remember, it's title, meta, which the meta is actually in the metas are the descriptions. These are together. And body content. All right, and then we're going to get into best practices SEO. I get all these people that are all over the internet, like trying to tell me that search engine optimization is like something that happens like because you did something or because you installed an extension in Joomla. But there is one human in this world that has been well, he's hired by Google, and I think he's strategically placed purposely, but I think he's just a really good human, and I think he really wants to help people, and his name is Matt Cutts. And I really don't read anything about search engine optimization except his blog. That's all I read, and I watch his videos on YouTube. This guy is the guy that that works for the spam division at Google, and you can read. He's got so much content about search engine optimization, and strangely enough, he writes about other things. You can kind of ignore the other stuff, but look at Google and SEO. Notice 541 articles about Google and SEO, and what he does is he tells the secrets. So all these SEO nerds that are out there like trying to tell you that they know everything and that they know the secret sauce, well, it's not cryptic. He tells you the rules. Like, you just go, if you want to keep up with search engine optimization, you just read his new blog posts. In fact, all I do is I sign up for his I signed up for his Twitter and Google Plus, and he posts it. And I do have a feed burner feed. You can sign up for a feed burner feed. You can click there, and I use this little feed burner gadget here. You can select it. Feed demon or something like that. And well, anyways, just sign up to whatever makes you feel good. This is by email. That one, I use that one. So when you go to Matt Cut's site, again for you, when you go to Matt Cut's site, the guy works for Google. He's the one that parses out all the spam in the organic search results. He's the one that works with the team that says what gets to the top of the search engine, because really for Google it's a battle of who's not supposed to be at the top of the search engine, because they're not battling against the people that are really doing the proper SEO labors and being white hat SEO people, where they just create content, put on the internet, and it's effective. There's a lot of people out in the world trying to fool the search engines, and they're trying to do things like people sell links. Like it's like I told you, get links to your site. Well, some people actually cheat, and they go out and they buy links from services that syndicate or links as a service. Like companies who want to get to the top of a certain key phrase, they cheat. And I don't know if you call it cheating or not. You can call it cheating. You don't have to call it cheating, but they're buying links. And Google hates people who buy links, because the business of buying links, well, takes away from Google. It alters the real results because people are fooling the system. And he blogs about this stuff. He says not what to do. So if you read this top article, he was griping because what happened was they basically have an algorithm that goes out and searches for people who are selling links. And if your site arbitrarily has some strange right-hand column with links facing another site that has no relevancy to it, your page rank's going to get lowered, and ultimately you're going to be lowered in the search engine, and there's going to be no value to you. So this guy's really, really cool. I like watching the videos a lot. If you're new to SEO, watching the videos is the easy way. The way I find his videos, they're all on YouTube. So let's see here. I just kind of did a search here. This is Google search here. I just go to Google, and you can go on YouTube and just type his name. He has his own YouTube channel, or you can note. I did it in Google because I typed Matt Cutts YouTube, because the more popular ones are at the top. So if you're trying to save yourself some time and learn a little bit about search engine optimization quickly, notice these videos are 12, 240, 255. I mean, after about 2 hours of just quality researching Matt Cutts, you're going to feel like an SEO god. All right. So optimizing sites for local search. I like to segregate local, like people probably for local aren't not going to create a lot of content. It's just not something you do. So what I consider local is someone that isn't targeting an international business. Maybe you're a carpenter, or maybe you own back to the fishing thing, maybe you own a charter fishing service or something, and you operate out of a local arena where you just service maybe like Bay Harbor, and you want people who search anywhere around that area to find your charter fishing service. Well, what I tell people to do is write content, create your site normally, add as many pages as you can, just normal content, just how I explained it to you. Architect URLs, do everything that I just explained. But there is a little simple thing you can do is when you finish, just go and do this. Like go in, and I actually helped my friend with the site and created him a simple Joomla site, and we planned, it's just simple. It's nothing intense, but he gets a lot of services. A lot of business from his site, and he's only a window cleaner, and he just wrote content in the middle, and then at the end I told him, it says put a little module on the left hand side that displays on all pages, and put the cities and counties that you service, because what people are doing in the search engines is they're going in and they always type in like Traverse City window cleaning. So like when you go to Google, and this is the window cleaner guy, so he's not really, he don't care about people in Indonesia looking about his window cleaning business, because he's just doing local window cleaning. So Traverse City window cleaning, And what we want to happen is, well, one is I am typing something local, so Google's going to come up with something called local results. So this is not this. These are ads. This box is ads. This is maps. That's nothing to do with search engine optimization. This is also local here. This is local. This has nothing to do with search engine optimization. But if this guy wouldn't have done the labor to create his site and actually connect everything properly, then he probably wouldn't be on the top section of the local results. So if and probably someone afterwards is going to ask a question about how to get to local. Google calls that places. So you can type in Google Places, you write that down, and you should register your business properly so it's listed here properly. This is the information that they do, and it's a profile in Google, and you have to set up a profile for Places, but that's not the topic here we're talking about. And then, well, he didn't get many results for here, and you hope that you're on some page here for Traverse City window cleaning, and we're just kind of scanning down to see if Steve made it to any page here. And at this point, I do not see Steve on page 1, page 2, or page 3 yet. And I'm going to guess probably Steve doesn't have a lot of links facing his site right now, so he's not going to be totally at the top of the engine. Google did put a lot of precedence on local in this particular search, and you never know what they're going to place precedence on which type of search. So, but back to my point is just make sure that you put for local people is make sure you'll put the list of the cities you service, whether it's on single pages or alternate pages that you're doing. You should put at least something on the site that references local. I'm going to go back and show you one more time. Not fishing. So squeaky cleans there, and right here, this site here. What I'm recommending to everybody is, a lot of local people are not real good at search engine optimization. It's probably something you don't invest a lot of time into. But if someone does search for you in in the city surrounding you, make sure you put the city names or the county names that people search for. You have to imagine through the user's eyes what people are going to type in the search engine, and you have to make sure that the words are on your site. If they're not on your site, there's no way that Google's going to index you under those particular words, even if you were in that local arena or you were in that business, or you put pictures up on your site that make it look like you might be Traverse City based. But pictures don't matter in SEO. Not enough to count. It's the words that you put on the site. So concentrate on that. My last most important thing I want to tell everybody, and I see this so much on our service, in our community, and all over the place, is you create this website and then you forget the most important part of the website is out of all the things you do for search engine optimization, is the most important thing is, see this home up here? See this home up top? That's the last thing you want to see on your site. What you want to do is you want to architect also the title of your front page of your site. And the way you would do that is in Joomla, there's kind of a secret way. It matters what feature used in Joomla. And if you get confused, and if you're on this webinar and you're hosting with cloudaccess.net and you just can't figure out where to change the title of the front page, please, I beg you, submit a ticket and ask our team to help you, because we want to make sure you're successful with your marketing campaigns. We want our businesses that host with cloudaccess.net to be one of those companies that are at the top of the search engine or somewhere in the search engine. And so, being able to locate how to change that title is kind of a goofy way to do it. And I always like to look at them. There's the main menu item here, and here it's listed under feature articles. I always like to link my front page to. Well, let's do this. I'm going to make it so my front page is an article that I want on the front page. So I'm going to do a new article, and I'm going to call it front page of fishing. Well, let's just call it front page right now. I always call my front page, and that's not SEO friendly, right? You wonder, oh, that's not SEO friendly, Gary Brooks. Why are you doing that? So front page content, and of course I would make that in H1. Put some content here just for fun. Oop, remember, I'm not supposed to paste from. Remember, you're not supposed to paste from directly from any editor. You just always paste from Notepad. And that's my front page, and then I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side under Meta Options. I'm going to put in a description, and just let's put in something here. Put some words. You would actually write a full-fledged sentence here and a couple sentences that have to do with the front page content. And then I'm going to hit Save, Close. Now I'm going to go back to my article, my menu system, and knowing that, remember the star here, the big fancy star, is what links to the front page on your site. So I'm going to click on that, and right now it's linked to the featured articles, this whole featured article system. I personally just do this because it's just how I architect my front pages. I always link my front page to a review. I hit Save and select my article. I know it's my front page article there. I hit Save. And I'm going to stay in this window, but what you'll notice is, again, if I click on the page, notice it still says Home up there. Here, you know, it's like, here, you know, bad, bad, bad. So I know this site is about phishing, and I want to make sure that this site is correct. So what you do is you, excuse me here, I got to find it. I'm going to change something here. I think this is the place you do it. Sometimes I get confused too, and I have to get my team to help me, so hopefully I'm not going to mess up here. But planning your title, I'm going to open up a notepad real quick and show you how I plan my title. So knowing that this is a phishing site, and knowing that it's the front page of my site, and it's the primary way that the search engine is going to kind of identify who I am, I'm going to say phishing, and then I'm going to say, well, you know, I can do this. I can do phishing, and then I can do awesome places in Utah, Texas, and Michigan. Okay. Now you can paraphrase in a title. This is what you call a title. And if you're doing regular HTML, this would be a meta title. You were to actually identify it being something. In Joomla, it's a point-and-click kind of thing, so it's really just you. It's a title. It's not really. It ends up being a meta title, and that's how it actually is architected at the top of the site. That's why you see it up here, is because the page itself is feeding a meta title up to the top. And I always tell people is typically the way you architect a title is its primary word, and you do this on all internal pages. Okay, primary word. And then you can use just like fun statement or relative statement or something like this, okay? And you can separate with, always do a space, dash, and then like this, or you can do an up and down sign like this. Don't try to link like this. Don't do this, okay? So again, when you're writing your articles, and this is not just for the front page, of course the most important one is the front page, and that's why I'm like, anyone that's here, please, please, please go look at the front page of your site and look at the title and make sure that you change it to something that's relative. Do not have the word home like uThemes does, you know, utheme. That's not how it should be. So here, let me show you this example real quick. We're going to come back to this right here. Is notice I went to go back to theme. I'm searching for them. Luckily, Google corrects me. Look at that. They got home utheme. The way that utheme should architect their URL, it should be more like this. It should be. Excuse me. It should be. What kind of example is this? Since probably their popular key phrase is Joomla, templates, and themes. And then probably another popular phrase is best in the world. And then that's my meta title. Not what they have. I mean, this is no good for your SEO. And if you look at some of their internal pages, I don't know if they did a better job or not at making it so better. But they did something else up there. The meta title for that something says Joomla, at least in some sense. So you do want to make sure on your internal pages you plan your titles. The titles are the most important thing on all pages. So let's go ahead and do this awesome places and actually put it into the system. So I'm going to put the title there. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to go preview the front page of my Joomla site. Notice here, notice home is gone. Okay. So I'm in Chrome, and it's kind of like you have to leave your mouse there to see the full title. Do you see that? You hold it there. Other browsers will kind of be different. Ultimate way to look at your title to make sure it's right, if you totally can't find it, is to view the page source, because it's in the page source, and it's going to be a title option here and up towards the meta information. See it right there? It's between the head. There's something called the head and HTML. If you haven't learned, Joomla does create syntax that's proper. You know, you got your header, your head, and your meta sits in between the head tags, and then of course your title sits there also. So you want to make sure you have a proper title and all your stuff. And I'm going to do one more for you real quick, because I think it's so important, and it's such simple things. SEO is one of those little molecular things you have to make sure you always plan for. So we're going to do another one. It's like fishing in Utah. I want to make sure that that is, because right now if I go back to the site, look at this. If I go back and click on fishing in Utah, luckily enough, it is already titled that way, so you want to check all your stuff and make sure it's doing that. And Joomla can be and will be, I don't know why it is, sometimes a little goofy with things, and with actually how you get the titles up there. So if you're planning and architecting your SEO campaign, make sure that you go look at every single one of your long-tail SEO articles that you're planning, and make sure that the title's proper. Make sure the title's correct, make sure your description's in there, make sure you have an H1 tag in there, the paragraph text, make sure you weight the content and put the words in there. If you do an H2 or you need an H2, make sure you do the H2 stuff, and keep it simple. Don't think too far ahead, and don't try to plan SEO. If you're just starting your business, don't plan it right from the beginning. First, architect the site, make whatever, plan your product, plan your business, get it up there, and then go do your long-tail SEO campaign, and then architect those key phrases into position. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and open up to question and answer time, and be glad to go ahead and let Bernie handle this from here forward. I'm going to answer any of your questions that you have, and I'm going to stay here as long as it's required. This letter was sent out to our customers, and I can tell you one thing that I really care about is the success of our customers. It's not just about hosting at cloudaccess.net. I actually care about your success, and I know right now that a lot of our customers are successful, and I would like to see more success out of this, and I hope that you take this lesson that I've given you and try to use it to the best of your ability. And if you have any questions about it, go ahead and ask away.
Hey, Gary, that was great.
Thank you, sir.
I just Skyped you 2 links. Would you mind opening them up just to show our viewers some resources?
No problem. Okay, got it. So the first one, Bernie, is the search engine optimization. Is that correct?
Yep, open that one up, and if you scroll to the bottom of this page, a lot of our viewers were asking for your presentation, so I embedded it at the bottom of that page.
Nice. You can find that by going up to webinars, and then you can click on Joomla search engine optimization. It's right there. And what you'll do is just stick to this area. You'll find it there, but stick to this area of the site. When you click on webinars, we're going to expand this whole area. There's going to be, look on the right-hand side menu, you'll find all the archived old webinars here. We'll keep them up to date for you.
All right, and the second link is a link to our YouTube channel, just to show folks that we're going to post this webinar. We're recording right now, and we'll post
Cloud
it.
Access up top. And then again, back to our site. If you go back to our site, we always have a fancy little link up here, the YouTube station, our YouTube station you can go to. We're real big into the medium of webinars, and Bernie, luckily, he's here with us. He's a professor and most amazing person, teaches a lot of the people how to start up in Joomla, and he runs our other series of webinars.
All right, so we have a ton of questions for you, and you had some really great information. I was trying to respond to a lot of folks as time went on, but Keith has a question. If you don't cover it in your lesson, can you show how to do a sitemap with HTML and XML?
Well, there's, if you go to the extensions directory, now you remember that the sitemaps do not need to be displayed on your site these days. It's not required that you put a sitemap on your site. It is a good way to make sure that if you have, like, you have 100 pages on your site and you're trying to get the search engine to make sure it knows where every piece of content is, that you maybe have a sitemap on the footer of your site, like you see a link sitemap at the bottom, but that's not really the way it works any longer. You can actually use Webmaster Tools and submit your sitemap manually to Google by using an XML file or some kind of program that does it automated. Typically the program has to be on kind of a cron job basis, but you can find a sitemap tool on the extensions directory. I'm at extensions.joomla.org, and this XMap that showed up at the top is a good one. There's some plugins here for other stuff. You can find those. Strangely enough, the one that I like is actually not even a plugin for a plugin that I use, and you can use on the Cloud Access.net service. It does work. It's called XML Sitemaps. XML Sitemaps. Just type in XML Sitemaps and you'll find it. And it's a little script that you buy. You download it, and it's a PHP script. You upload it to your site. And if you put it on a cron job, what it'll do is it'll, based on time, it'll just scan your site for, like Google does, for new URLs, and then it'll actually submit your sitemap to Google and a few others via XML. And it also gives a way that potentially at the bottom of your site you could link to it, and then rather than worrying about always having a sitemap on your site, you can put this thing on a cron job as like a timer-based service that allows you to automate something, and with the sitemap tool, just automate scanning your site and then always spitting out an up-to-date sitemap, so that way if you're frequently working on your site, you can concern yourself with how long it takes. So I'm going to do a quick scan of cloudaccess.net and show you that they have a kind of a hosted service, XML Sitemaps, that allows you to scan the site and see how many pages you have. And the same exact kind of action that's happening here, if you download this script and put it on your site, this is what it does. It does the same thing. He provides it as a service also to show you what it does. And at the end of the time, it's going to spit out some kind of XML file. It's going to spit out a text file, and then also a raw HTML file it's going to spit out. And you could use that either to haul it over to Webmaster Tools, actually physically pull it over, and dump the files and submit it directly to Webmaster Tools, which is through a manual web interface, or, like I said, you should automate it. Okay?
All right. So we had a question from Missy about anchor text and a few other questions. I was able to shoot some knowledge base articles to those folks. Janet had a great question. Is it best practice to have a whole website including SEO finished prior to making it public versus if the do-it-yourselfer is short on time, having the base website done and over a couple weeks finishing and cleaning up and adding SEO and things?
There is, if you look around the internet, there's ways that you can manually turn away the bot. The Google bot, they call it the bots, which is really the crawler. It's the little machine that crawls the internet and picks up your site and reads it and somehow puts it in the index. It's a big magical thing that happens there, but you can turn the bots away. If you're a small site that is just starting to build, it's kind of you never know. If someone links to you that's a popular site and they link to you, then the bot's going to find you faster because someone linked to you and it just crawled its way to you. And then if it sees that you never were indexed, and it's going to put you in a little queue and say, I'm coming back to you, I'm going to come scan you, and then it comes and scans you, and you don't even know when it scans you unless you have something to detect that you're scanning. I'm one of those people that I'm a startup guy. Like, I say just build and don't worry about the bot, especially if you're not really planning your search engine optimization campaign. It's better to be found than not found, so just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just build. Don't worry about the bot until you're really worried about the bot.
I like the advice. So if you change, this is from Missy, if you change the paragraph style, so if you're making a H1 header, can you change the paragraph style after that, or should you just leave it as H1?
Well, it's not. Remember, the H1 is a title, and then the paragraph, the H1 is identifying as a title to Google. That means, hey, I have a topic here, and then after the H1 is done, we have open bracket, close bracket. I'll show you an example real quick. Oh, I'm in a menu item. Rewind. I'll go back to my content in Joomla, to my article, my fishing and Michigan article. We're going to look at the HTML view because you should get used to looking at the HTML view if you're going to learn, be a little bit into working with Joomla. I like to use the full page view. HSE has this. If you guys don't know, it's a full page view. And you'll notice that H1 starts and then it closes. So that's the start of the title. And it starts with a P and then it closes with a P somewhere else back over here. And so they're fully separate units, and it doesn't matter if you change them or not. It's really irrelevant and typically won't make a difference. What you'll want to be careful with is if you're like in a major, if you happen to make it to some major key phrase that is like your business, and if you aren't on that particular key phrase all the time, and it's a special URL that you're landing on, and everything's like that's how you get all your traffic. I mean, of course, you want to be careful not to be messing around with the content on that page, because if you goof something up on that page and then all of a sudden Google says, well, they put a lot of content there about something else, it's really not relevant anymore, so they pull you off of that particular listing. Now, it's not quite that sensitive, so you don't have to be super sensitive, but you do have to be careful and not be sticking weird stuff on a page that was already architected and already in a certain location in the search engine.
Okay. Now, do search engines take meta description from the article or from a menu item? I know we've talked about this a few times.
Search engines make their own decision, but what you'll typically notice is if you're feeding the engine properly, then when we type in let's just type in Joomla hosting in the search engine here. And you can do your own research. So look at SiteGround. SiteGround, Joomla hosting is provided by people who know and love Joomla. We have Joomla optimized servers, expert, and support. So where does that text come from? You can look almost to find out where it comes from. So if you click on that link from SiteGround, and so somewhere I'm going to do this. Hold on. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to highlight that little section there. I'm going to click on the site. And then I'm going to right-click on this page, view page source, right? And I'm going to hit Control F on my keyboard, and I'm going to paste that text in there, and I'm going to find it. But notice where Google pulled this title from. Or notice, so if we go back to the search engine, again, here we go back to those results. So that's the title of their article, and then this text is typed here. Google selected doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to do it, because I've noticed they do it differently, is they selected the meta description. So whatever SiteGround typed in the meta description is what Google printed here, right? So again, best practices is to make sure that your descriptions match your title and your body content, because if you do everything right, Google's just going to do some fancy math and it's going to put you where you're supposed to be, and it's going to have relevant, pretty information for the client to click on in the organic results.
Very cool. And so since you're on Google anyway, Ruth asks, if keywords aren't necessary, why does Google have a keyword tool?
Well, the keyword is in association is trying to architect the article to say that there's these, say I have this title, I have this meta information, and then I have this body content. And basically what Google said, and you go talk to Matt Cutts, you can go read an article about it somewhere, it basically says that we don't really care about you typing in words, commas, word, comma, telling us what this article's about. We're smart enough to figure out ourselves that there's a title, you write the description because we're going to use it just because it's there, and then we're going to look at your content on that page, and we're going to look at the rest of your site and make a decision whether or not where you're supposed to be at in the search engine. You don't need, Google just did it. They just made a decision and said, you know what, people are typing these keywords in and they're trying to put fake stuff in there, and it's pointless. The algorithm doesn't care, and it doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't make sense to anybody other than, so that's what matters, is what they think. So just don't put them there. That's it.
Right. And hey, we talked about this a few times. Is it best to have the article title displayed, or to make the H1 the title of the article and turn the, the menu item article title off?
Okay, so I mean, it doesn't. I mean, okay, there's a point where it matters, and there's a point where it doesn't matter. So it matters. I mean, if you created a Joomla site, or you've got a content management system, whether it be a WordPress site, Joomla site, Drupal site, and you're letting the content management system architect some of the titles and some of the areas where, like, I made some of the stuff disappear in the article. Well, you can allow the content management system to do that, but why? When I'm planning SEO. Why even arbitrarily allow the system to even think? I don't let it think. I put exactly what I want. So if I'm going to have a title in the meta title, I'm going to put exactly what I want in the meta title. If I'm going to have a title in the article, I'm not going to let the system generate it. I'm going to architect it myself. I'm going to put a real H1 tag there so it says H1 and I can see it and I know Google's going to scan it properly and it's just there. So I take no risk when it comes to SEO. So actually just putting that data there is that's how I do it. And we have a PageRank 8 site, so I mean, I could be wrong.
Okay, so there's a few other, well, you have a lot of other questions actually. Bylines matter. Bylines matter to Ruth. She has a news-oriented website. How should she handle bylines and writer's information?
Well, I mean, I think she's referencing to the thought that the Matt Cutts mentions this stuff too, and he went in to say that if you're a news site, that there's now a new meta. There's a brand new meta tag you can use for people who are doing things with those news type sites. So I would encourage her to go again and read some of Matt Cutts' most recent information, or I think it's the Webmaster Tools most recent blog. If I look here real quick, it says structured data testing tool, or is it that one? Answering tough questions, government webmasters. I think it's one of these here that she'll have to look at. Tell her to just look at the top section of Google, but they did talk about that recently and how to handle those scenarios, because they just don't want you selling links. And if they find out you're selling links, they're gonna devalue your site. So you have to tell them openly that you're selling links, and there's a way to disclose that with a attribute on both the link and the article.
So talking more about meta description and meta keywords again, can a lot of questions on that. Can people put in 100 keywords in the description area, and are there any limits on those types of things?
Well, I guess I didn't do the math in my brain or go do the research, but I mean, there's not a limit that you can type in the description, because I've seen people type in paragraphs of text in there, but it's pointless to do that. So I just typically try to stick to 2 or 3 sentences that are well architected. That's it.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just getting through our questions, making sure we're answering everything we can. John had a question. Well, you're talking about links, and you mentioned a one-way link. Was that you to them or them to you?
Either way, if for example, the cloudaccess.net site, when someone downloads a template from cloudaccess.net and they go to GoDaddy or SiteGround and install it there, and they create a site about religion, and if there's a link back to my site, that's considered a one-way link. Okay, and the why is because I never link back to them. It would be a two-way link if I decided to stick a link back to them. And there is more value from having a one-way link than there is exchanging links. If I'm linking to you, you're linking to me, especially if your site's just full of link exchanges. If all you're doing is going out and saying, I'll trade with you, you trade with me, I'll trade with you, I'll trade with me. Well, it's okay to do that, but you're not going to get much, there's less value in that than actually just naturally somehow getting links facing your site one way.
Okay.
Could you imagine how many links Apple has? Think how many people blog about Apple or say something about Apple or do something about Apple and they link back to the Apple site. So Apple has this just ridiculous amount of one-way links facing them, and it's why they're so popular in the search engine, and they can just bully themselves around anywhere they want to plan their long-tail SEO campaign.
Cool. Rush and Nelson had similar questions about that. Hopefully we answered those for you. Rush had another great question about images that we haven't really talked about yet, and He writes, what about the description property for images? I've used it for websites that can be easily readable for people with visual problems. Is this also used for SEO?
Yeah, I mean, so again, Google's algorithm and Yahoo's algorithm is it's their math, and that's their secret sauce. So you kind of just, I mean, I pick and prod through Matt's words, and I make a decision based on what he says. And there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time just studying the algorithm and trying to figure out what's best for the algorithm. And in the case of they talk about usability of the site, and they talk about educational. Like Google actually will actually grade your writing. So if it's like a child's writing, if it looks like child's writing with spelling mistakes and just ridiculous, no grammar, nothing, no care of the content, then you're going to be degraded. You're going to get less points. If you have more college-educated writing where it's grammatically correct, you're going to get better points. And the same thing with images. What I always try to tell people, best cases with images, is that pretend like a blind person's looking at your site. So if you have an image there and you are using Joomla, like I'll just do it. I'll show everybody real quick so you can see. When you stick an image in the site, so like this, you have an image, you grab where's the image guy there? There's the image guy. In JCE, I'm going to go back and show people that. In JCE, there's a little image gadget there, right there. You insert, and you select an image here. So it's a Joomla image. So there's what's called the alt text, and the alt text, it should just say explain the picture to a blind person. And that's how I think about in my brain when I display it. When I put an image in, and I want to make sure that I do good on-page SEO. This is considered on-page SEO. Is when you make sure that you architect everything just pretty. Is that I put on there, it says colored Joomla logo, or keep it simple because it could be just a Joomla logo, but explain the image to someone that maybe cannot see, and then insert the image. At that point, that's friendly for the search engines. And if you're going to link it, if you're going to link the image, create a link. The same thing is to link it to, put the title text that says Joomla logo, and then insert. So that's all you have to. With Joomla, it makes it super simple to do best efforts SEO, and that's how you would make sure that you, when you place all your images on your site, or you're planning all the on-page content, that you fill in those little extra fields. It takes a little bit of time, but it's going to mean so much more. So it is the little things matter in search engine optimization.
Very good. A lot of people are asking about images, actually. Missy as well. Mike is asking, can you please touch on anchor text a little bit more and expand upon what you already mentioned?
Well, first of all, I made a mistake on anchor text. Remember, these are description and title tags, and so when you in Joomla, as far as the editors go, you can just highlight a set of text, and when you link, what your goal is here is to make sure you fill in the title. You got to fill in the title tags. So title tag here is like experience, so network, and then you link it to something, an alternate set of content. Insert the link. And make sure that it's relative to what you're talking about or what you're linking to. So it's another way to identify with the search engine, to tell you you tell the search engine what you're doing. So I insert a link, and it's that simple. That's all you do. You don't really worry about anything else. And I think that explains it clearly. With the Joomla editor, it's very easy. I mean, the links, just fill in the blanks. With the pictures, fill in the blanks. And it is there also not only with I think the core Joomla editor does it too. Here, I'm going to just do it real quick. If you don't have JCE and you're using these little buttons down here, insert an image. Notice you can see the image title. And you have to know, the funny thing is, I'm not really good with, I'm not really an HTML expert, and like you won't catch me like editing CSS and stuff because I'm just not that type of human. But an anchor is actually a little jump down. So you remember in HTML world, you would create some kind of like title up here, or you would create like jump down to something, and then you would go down here and you would create a jumping down here. And this has nothing to do with SEO, but I mean it is SEO friendly because you aren't doing any JavaScript stuff or anything like that to make a jump. You would say here, like you put the little link here, like highlight that, and then there's these anchors here. You insert the anchor, you call it phishing, and you won't see the word phishing there. You're just going to see this little thing pop up there, and that allows you to go back up here, and highlight a piece of text and link it. And if you just put pound phishing and match the anchor tag and make sure that you put in the title, phishing, insert, what you do is you create effect where you can jump down on the page. So I'm going to refresh this here and see. Notice that, well, they didn't do it very good because I didn't jump it down very far. Let me check again how it goes. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. So let's do this. Let's replicate this content. So I want to show you the jump, but that's an anchor is when you do this. So I just put a whole bunch of context on a really long page. This considered SEO friendly. I'm not saying that, you know. So if you had, let's just say you had a whole bunch of content on a page, like just lots of it, up and down, like maybe 5-fold, 6-fold of content. You can create an index, kind of like an index up the top. You could have 5 or 6 links here, and you could create an anchor and then just jump down. See how it jumps? Jumps, and that's using a feature, and it's just HTML, but in JCE it's this little button, looks like an anchor, and you put it. That's how you make it jump. You put the anchor there, and then you go up and you highlight a piece of text like here and use the link button and then the pound sign and whatever the name of the anchor is, and then just jumps down to that. That's it. Next.
All right. Yeah, Douglas asks, how do you get search engines to find the anchors instead of just the top of the page?
Well, you don't. I mean, if it's on the, if you've created a page with anchors and you want to, you shouldn't do that then. If you're trying to architect search engine optimization, you don't use the anchors to try to get the search engine to try to land on an anchor. In fact, I don't think it will. I'm 95% sure, 96% sure that Google will never land on an anchor. It'll land on the page that is the URL. So for SEO world, if you're doing a long page, like an FAQ page, a lot of times will be anchors. That's not a page that's meant for SEO. An FAQ page that's got 5-6 pages on one page of content, that's maybe only found if someone's like typing in cloudaccess.net hosting FAQ and they want to get directly to that page, and Google's just a convenient way to find it. But it's not like how you would like plan your SEO campaign and try to get to the top of a keyword phrase. Remember that if you're planning to try to get to particular key phrases, then you're actually architecting, and you wouldn't use anchors probably in a typical scenario for any pages that are architected for SEO.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of great compliments for you, Gary. Many thanks. Great webinar from Nelson. Bob says, I'm Bob from Chicago, and Gary's awesome. And Faraz says, great job, Gary. Ryan has a question. I wanted to confirm that we do not use keywords in meta tags. If that's what you're recommending.
Yeah, you don't have to use them. Just fill in the description. And like I said, title. I mean, if you do anything in SEO world, if you do anything to care about your business, is make sure the titles are right on all your pages. Even if you don't fill in the description, because sometimes we get busy or lazy or whatever it is, and all you do is just fill in the content on the page. Google will forgive you for not filling in a description, but Google will not hardly forgive you for not filling in a title.
Okay. Michael is selling two different products. Very different products on his webpage. Should SEO be specific for each article, or should it be consistent throughout an entire site?
Well, I mean, maybe, I mean, if you're a product company, and I mean, if you're selling on one end, if you're selling Michael Jackson posters, and on the other end you're selling sump pumps, you're really probably, if you're planning your SEO campaign, need to think about how you plan your business. You might want to build two marketing properties and separate the properties, because you don't, I mean, there's nothing you can do to try to get Google to think you're different, because you're different because you want to be different. If you have two distinct products that are totally different, well, build two. You can keep the same brand on two different sites. That's not going to make a difference. You know, same logo, same type of brand, but maybe you should segregate that content into two different properties, so that way you're isolated from whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to accomplish SEO, then separate the sites. So I would need to know what two products they were to give real good advice.
Hey, an interesting question from Tay about 404 errors and changing an alias. If they change an alias, is it going to result in a 404 error? I don't believe so, does it?
Yeah, well, yeah. If an alias changes the URL, then it's going to result. I mean, a 404 only results if someone tries to access the old URL. So, if you're trying to get to an old URL that is no longer there, then the response from the server is going to be 404. And if it's in the search engine indexed already, if it's already indexed under that old URL, then you need to make sure that you do what's called a permanent 301 redirect. Or Joomla has this really awesome tool. If you're going to be doing stuff like that and changing URLs, then there's something you can enable that's called the oh man, here you're going to use I'm using my brain heavily here today. I don't use Joomla very much. You would think I use it I edit my own site a lot. It's a redirect tool. I shouldn't have said that. I do use Joomla every day. Redirect authentication system redirect. It's already enabled here. Do you see it? Okay. And there's not many parameters in this thing. It's just a plugin in Joomla, but it's built into Joomla, and it's made for if you make if you're trying to change some architected URLs that you've done already, and you know that you're going to get a 404, you know that particular URL is in the engine in a certain way, you can enable this thing, and you can keep track of the 404s on it. So you can create what's called a permanent 301 redirect. So let me see if I can actually do this real quick. Let me do something here. I'm going to actually go to this page, and I'm going to type in something bad 404. And so if I go back to this again, look what Joomla did. It tracked it. It actually said, hey, look at someone hit this URL and it's not even on your site. And if you thought that URL was super important and you moved it, then what you can do is you can forward it to where it's supposed to be at. And Joomla does something really cool. It just does what's called a permanent 301 redirect, but it's built into the content management system. So you can take this old URL and then redirect it to where it's supposed to be. You click on it, and then you give it the destination URL. So let's actually do that. So let's give it let's link it back to the main index again. So if I did do that mistake and I actually did the had that URL there, but I want my client, like maybe I put it in a newsletter or something and then I changed it and I forgot about it. I don't know what I did, and I don't want to lose the client and make sure that they get to the right location. So now I know that really that ugly something bad 404 page is really gone. So now that I enabled it and I forwarded it, when I refresh here, watch. Well, it's supposed to. Let me see here. I must have done something wrong here. Oh, I got to enable it. Excuse me. Okay, so enable it, and then refresh this, and watch what happens. Bam. It does a permanent 301 redirect. And that's something actually that I tell a lot of people is if you're moving some standard HTML site into Joomla, and you had a lot of URLs that you were like trying to figure out how to make sure that they get back to where they're supposed to be at, because when you have a standard HTML site and it's got this whole URL structure that you had previously, and then you move it into Joomla, the whole URL structure changes. And if you've been in business for 7 years on the internet, all of a sudden Google's like, holy smokes, you deleted all URLs, so I'm getting 404, 404, 404. Google will just
take you out of the index as fast as they can. That way their users aren't receiving a bad experience and getting bad pages when they find search results, right? We don't like going to the search engine and clicking on a search result and seeing a dead link. No one likes that. Google doesn't like it either because they don't want their users to have a bad experience. So the way to circumvent that is to make sure that you do a permanent 301 redirect, and that's what we've done here in Joomla conveniently. We put this permanent 301 redirect tool in there. So for people who don't understand how to architect the move from old site to new site in Joomla, I tell them make sure you turn on your redirect extension, and pretty much when you flip the site to the new Joomla site, sit there and monitor, like basically sit there and refresh this page every half hour or however often you feel crazy about doing it, and you'll start to see these URLs add up, and then you need to make sure that you go in and you redirect them as quick as you can to the proper URL, so that way you don't lose your rankings. Because if Google finds out that if they get one 404, they're not going to just remove you from the engine. But I believe I don't know how many it is, but if they see 404, you're out. You're out, and you don't want to be in that scenario. So do your redirects as quickly as you can, or take inventory of your old URLs and make sure you come in here and do your redirects manually. Okay?
Okay, and Frank asked, do internal links to menu items within the site count favorably with SEO?
It's a link. I mean, it's not exactly, I try to think of menu items as, at least from an architectural standpoint of SEO, is I try to think of menu items as links to index pages. So when I create a menu item, I want to think that I'm going to link to an index page, and then I'm going to spawn content off of that index page, whether it be a right-hand side navigation, bottom links navigation, or like kind of a on-page links to navigation. I don't try to use my menu structure as SEO. It's not, my menus are SEO friendly, right? They are crawlable. We don't use Flash-based menus, and in Joomla, a lot of them are built with JavaScript and CSS, so they're friendly to be searched. But don't try to think of your menu systems as being the reason and all being of how you do SEO.
And Frank's asking if he's migrating a site, are those internal links still relative? And he should probably just recheck them.
I mean, if you have a relative URL, Google doesn't do any. They aren't going to think relative, non-relative. I mean, my opinion is when you're doing internal linking, choose the method and stick with it. If you're going to be doing static routes to your internal, meaning you're copying and pasting URL and sticking the link statically in there, then you better stick to it, because it's going to be a pain in the butt to go redo all your internal links. If you're using the method of Joomla where allows you to, like JCE allows you to link internally to something, and then it uses the router method, it's called the Joomla router, which you really don't need to know about other than it just some kind of magical way it connects to an alternate URL. Stick to that method. So once you pick a method, stick to the method and try not to change it, because at some point if you get a really big Joomla property, or it gets really big, or you get really famous, or you're making a lot of money, you're going to be able to hire a coder to at least, if you used one method, it's going to be much easier for that coder to transform the site from older version of Joomla to new version of Joomla and still keep the same link architecture.
Okay, and great. I like Kenneth's question here about local. He has a local site for local SEO. Should he include the city and state name within the title of the page?
Well, if you think they're going to search for state, then of course. I mean, you're going to want to try to plan to stick the state name in there at some point. If you believe that the state name is something that's really, really important, then make sure you get the state name on every single page that matters to your local results. And but when I showed you that example of the Traverse City window cleaning, the state name to Google doesn't really matter, because I mean they're going to do geolocation anyways typically and some of the results, which mean they're going to look at source IP address from the searcher, and then they're going to display results based on what city was typed in the engine, and less probably about the state. So if it concerns you, stick the state name in there. It's not going to hurt.
Okay, and Mark, you already talked about pictures and graphics a little bit, and Mark's wondering, do the file names matter with SEO?
I mean, no. I mean, when you're doing, I mean, it can, but it's not really like there's no reason why you would care that a file name is properly named to, the file name's not going to come up in the search engine. So it's pointless to try to think that a file name is relative to anything. But I mean, you don't want to put any dirty words in the file names, because if Google searches for that and your site's all about Christianity, all of a sudden you have Viagra and all kinds of crazy stuff in your names of your pictures, then I doubt that would be favorable. And we all talk that comes back to just being relative to the content. So again, best case is try to make it relative, and if you don't hit exact with file names, it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Hey, I want to backtrack just a sec. We talked about migrating just a moment ago. Mark asked a great question about migrating a site from GoDaddy to a Cloud Access, let's say. Will that affect anything with SEO ranking?
Well, remember, if you have a Joomla site and it's in a database and it's just the normal file structure, you dump the database, you dump the files, and you can exactly replicate site from point A to point B, and you point your domain name at another server, and no, it does not matter. Moving a site does not matter to SEO, other than if you go to bad IP addresses, but Cloud Access has no bad IP addresses or dirty space that matters. We're a very clean property here at Cloud Access, meaning we don't have any adult content on our network. We don't promote any adult stuff or anything like that. So you want to be careful with some shared hosting companies that promote negative or derogatory content, where there could be a potential threat that those IP addresses are blocked.
Okay. Hey, two great questions about SEO from Jay and Stuart. Google's going to be weighing social media more heavily. How is social media related to SEO and link bait, and how are they connected?
Well, I mean, no one really knows. I mean, other than I do see some candid results in the search engine results sometimes, where I see my friend's face and under a search, and or that there's some kind of value behind people socially sharing content. And to me, I'm not really sure quite yet that there's any value in that you're being social, to say. I'm not saying, because I mean, and there can be so many mechanisms for social, meaning like just having a share icon across the top of an article, is that considered being social? Or is is allowing people to comment at the bottom of the article, and then what's called user-generated content. So you write a really cool article about fishing, and then at the bottom people comment on it. Well, that's called user-generated content. And yeah, there is value to user-generated content, because the possibility is that that architected URL that you created could potentially have other keywords on there that other users type that might come up in other results that you never thought of, which is basically creating even a broader spectrum of long tail by allowing users to create user-generated content. So, I mean, it's a loaded question that you gave me, because you have to be more defined on what you mean by social. Okay?
Okay. Glenn asks, hi, I'm in the coffee machine business, and they have a page rank of 0. They're highly competitive, and it's hard to get links. How big of a problem is that going to be towards their development?
Well, I mean, you have to I mean, you have to go out and get links. You have to figure it out. You really should go out and try to get a few links. The bigger, for example, let me give you an example. If cloudaccess.net linked to your site, because I have a Cloud Access as a PR page rank 8, and we pointed at you, that's like having the behemoth of guns pointed at you. It's like having a nuclear bomb facing you, and it's like lock and loaded. And people pay thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, I've seen people pay upwards of $8,000 for a monthly fee to get a link from a big site like cloudaccess.net to face you, because the value is that you have other big guns facing you, not just a whole bunch of littles. If you have a whole bunch of little PR zeros facing you, it's less of a value than having one big cloudaccess.net face you. So and for your business, you really have to look at your vertical. Like, what is the competitive space you're trying to be in? What are the primary key phrases that you're trying to target? Or if it's just one phrase that you want to try to hit, I'm not saying do this, but people do buy links, and it's none of my business what you do, but it's not illegal to buy links. I can tell you this: it's not illegal, but you also have to be careful how you buy links. So my advice is to make sure that if you buy a link, that it looks natural, and probably the best way to buy a link is to buy a blog post. and to buy a blog post under the common vertical and make sure that no one can delete the blog post because you don't want to pay the money and have someone blog about you. Some people do that too. They go out and ask their friends directly, it's like, can I buy a blog post from you? And you pay that person 10 or 20 bucks and they post a blog about you, and that's it. Or you write the blog post for them and say, hey, post this, will you? And some people are just nice, and if you write a good article, they want content on their site. They do, because it helps them, and you're handing them the ready-made content that's relative, so they just post it and link to you. That's the way to do it, but be careful. You do have to do things in order to get people to link to you in order to gain any popularity.
So I think that answers Neelish's question on blog posts as well. And Neelish has a question about common footers, like about us, contact us forms on in a footer. And SEO is related to those as well, right?
No, I mean anything to do with a form, you're not trying to do SEO. Just stay clear. If you're trying to SEO, that's where I was telling people is you're trying to buy these extensions, these third-party extensions that do SEO for you. And you're trying to convert. I see people trying to take a forms extension where they create forms. They might have 5 or 6 forms on their site, and they're all concerned because the URL is ugly, or because they want some H1 title on their form or something like that. That's not SEO. In fact, you should do an exclude on that URL and not worry about it, because you don't do with forms. What are the other things, like weird pages that you're generating content from some Joomla component or something like that? Don't even worry about that stuff. Just create that content, let it go, and then worry about really architecting what you really want to be search engine optimized.
Okay, and Bill's has a website that is mainly video content, and he's asking, how does one incorporate daily articles and get in the SEO game? Should he have a separate area for articles, or should he try to incorporate videos and articles together?
You could mix and match. I mean, whatever's natural. It doesn't. I mean, whatever's going to be relative to the content that you have. Some people, I know some people try to transcribe their videos on the footer of the video. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. It's not negative, and it won't discredit you that you transcribe the videos. It could probably only help. Just make sure you like when you put the content below the video that it's pretty. Like we do the titles, the H1, the H2s, and then and also remember, if you're trying, you wouldn't use your video and your transcription to try to target a particular key phrase. Though some of those things, it's like spraying it on the wall. You don't know where it's going to land. It's just you're lucky that you're doing the content and it's there. So just get it up there and get it out on the internet. And then once you get a couple hundred pages on the internet, or you get some inclusions into the Google index, then you can decide where you're going to architect those key phrases that you do want to hit on primary phrases, which are going to earn you conversions in business.
Hey, super. Stan had a great question. Is there a checklist? We have a checklist for what you've presented today. I don't think we do, but it'd be a great thing to develop. So perhaps
there's a really good article. Type in Google SEO PDF. Okay, Google SEO PDF. And it's right at the top. I'll post it at the bottom of the recorded webinar when we're done here. But Google provides a just good blanket how-to SEO common practices kind of thing here. So it's the getting started guides thing that they mentioned. They give you create unique, accurate page titles. First thing they mention, just like I said, and then it goes on. So read this thing. It's good, really good.
Cool.
Really, really good.
We have that link to one of our internal pages too. A lot of our viewers will go there. Dan has a question. I've been using SH404 SEF for my SEO on my site. Is this a good thing, or has he been shooting himself in the foot?
Well, it's not a bad thing. I probably don't see a reason for it. I mean, I know Victor from that company, so he's probably going to shoot me if I tell people this, but I if I'm doing search engine optimization, I do exactly what I showed you today. I like go in, I type in the alias, I type in the title, I type in the description, and then voila, that's my URL. That's my content. I'm targeting a particular key phrase. If I typed out 100, if I did a keyword research on 100 popular phrases that I wanted to write content for, then that's what I'm targeting. That's my SEO. I'm not trying to get every single little thing to have a pretty URL on my Joomla site, because it's just going to create complications. Plus, personally, I think that stuff slows your site down. It's another plugin. It does slow your, it does slow your site down, because it's another plugin, and it's calling the architecture in Joomla to render the URL differently. So it has to use another router, another URL routing engine, and at the end of the day, I don't know, I can't really tell you yes or no is how Google credits or values you based on speed, but Google has said that speed does matter on your website. So if you're concerned about the little things that matter in SEO, then you want to make sure your site's speedy. And if you have something sitting there that's going to slow it down, what's the point? If you're just trying to architect every single URL underneath the moon on your website just because you want to, what's the point? And then at the other end of the scope, when it's time to actually transfer that site from like 1.5 to 2.5 to 3.5, did that company create migration tools to make sure that every single one of those URLs are re-architected, or did you just create yourself a whole bunch of hassle to have to hire a developer to try to transfer that content and do the permanent 301 redirects, and all of a sudden they're telling you it's going to be an extra 40 hours worth of labor, and that equates to $4,000 more. What value did you get out of that?
Okay. Sean has said, very informative webinar, a ton of thanks. Robert asks, can I make Joomla automatic? Can I have Joomla automatically generate browser titles?
Yeah, it does. In fact, if you noticed when but it matters like how you have the menu linked to a piece of content in Joomla. Like you'll notice that when I created that first phishing site, you'll see that it actually the front page of the site had home, and it was because I had that content linked to what was a featured article view. So the feature article view didn't give me a properly architected title, but when I created the other articles, where it actually pulled the title from the title of the article, so it architected it by itself. So best case is always just look at the title, and if you can't see it directly on the browser, then look at the meta source, look at the near the meta information where the title is between the head tags, and make sure that your title is correct right there.
And through all of this, when is it, Neelish asks, when should you just go get some professional help versus trying to do this yourself?
When you have lots of money and you're bored and you don't feel like doing it by yourself.
Okay. But it is possible to do it yourself, as Gary's pointing out. Zitong, does the menu level affect search engine rankings? For example, you have sub-menu items.
Not really. Speed counts, and I don't know if you have crap loads of menus, items dropping down left and right all over the place. It can get kind of goofy. Another thing is that remember that if you're blanketing menu items over top of a long tail SEO campaign and your site's all over the place, you run the risk of having Google try to misinterpret your site, because you have all these drop down menus that show up on every single page. Do you really need all those drop-down menus on every single page, or should you have rather just created one drop-down menu which lands to an alternate index page with left-hand side or right-hand side navigation, compared to having it just always in your main menu structure, which shows up on every page on the site, right? That gets confusing. If you look at the source, like in Joomla, because the menu is rendered, if you create a ridiculously huge menu, like hundreds of menus that drop down, and then you go to inside landing pages, the inside ones which you're trying to plan for SEO, and all of a sudden those same 100 links about other topics are on that same landing page, you could goof up Google a little bit trying to comprehend what your site is if you've got a whole bunch of miscellaneous when drop-down menus, remember when they output to Google, they're usually ordered lists, LI, or unordered list or something like that. Remember, I'm not an HTML expert, but it's plain text to Google. It's not a drop-down menu, and I'm not really sure exactly if they do identify it as a drop-down menu. And I'm like 95% sure they don't. So don't do it.
So another question, is it necessary to create a webmaster account for all major search engines?
Well, I don't know. No, I mean, well, no. Google has its own webmaster tools, and Yahoo has their own, I believe, and all the major search engines are going to have their own. There's probably someone out there that aggregates the data, maybe. I'm not really sure. Again, it's because every service provider like Google and Yahoo would have to expose those application programming interfaces, and then someone would have to write an application that grabs all that data and aggregates it, and of course allows reads and writes possibly to the remote databases, and that's a far cry. I wouldn't say that that's happening right now, and I don't know of any tool.
Okay, this is a great question from Ben. We haven't talked about mobile devices yet. What type of consideration should someone take with SEO and having a mobile-friendly version? Does Google rank it lower or higher if there is no mobile-friendly version?
So, well, I'm not even sure Google have to figure out that. You know, that's you might have stumped the presenter here. Now, when you talk about mobile, there's mobile can when you're in Joomla world right now we have something called responsive templates, right? Right, and then we have or you can have a site that has multiple templates, which means you have one. If you pull up a site and it notices that that you're on a mobile device, then it gives you the mobile template. And if you're on a iPad or something like that, then it gives you kind of the formatted version for the iPad. And then if you're on a big computer, then it gives you the big version of the template. That's 3 different templates for one database, or basically one piece of content. And no, I don't think that there's a devaluation or valuation of that, although the results probably show up a little bit different for mobile devices and how Google actually just displays the organic results. And I'm not sure if the calculation is different or not for the organized and calculated results. Bernie, you're typing too loud when I'm talking.
Sorry.
Okay. So no, I mean the answer is no. And in Joomla world, if you're just for some blanket advice here is if you're planning on mobile and you're a lower budget firm or just trying to save costs right now, there's a technology called responsive templates, and responsive templates are really the same template that adjusts based on the device that you're on and does some fancy CSS magic in the back end that allows it to respond. And then at that point, then your content is the same, your template is the same, and all you're doing is some fancy CSS magic, and at that point, then your organic results are just going to be the same.
Okay. An interesting question. Does bolding text have anything to do with SEO, just simply making text bold?
Back in the day, it used to. People used to bold. I mean, and it might still a little bit. I'm not confident. What I remember seeing people do was on primary phrases. They would if I was writing a title, like when I wrote the title "Fishing in Michigan," and I put a H1 tag there, and then in the body content, if I happen to have the keyword "Fishing in Michigan" bolded, then you might get an SEO point for that or something like that. But again, I'm not going to confidently say that that's important. I think what Matt Cutts is going to tell you again is just do it if it's relative, if it matters. If it's important for the user to see that word, then bold it. Don't worry about it being an SEO value point, and don't do it everywhere because it's going to look ridiculous if you're just bolding every keyword on purpose. That's not SEO friendly. I can't hear you, Bernie.
Oh, sorry. Todd says that's very interesting and informative webinar. I would put myself on mute trying to respond to some of your attendees. Linda says, super helpful, thank you. Jeff has asked, my H1 title HTML has lots of other stuff besides the actual title, things like font style, etc. Why?
Well, probably because you're not using your CSS style sheets. If the proper way to handle SEO is to like when I you notice the on my site when I was working on it, on the when I put H1, that that it changed size, and I don't have any HTML extra, saying it's bold or whatever. And my guess is that you're doing bad on-page labor, which is you're actually going in and doing things like because HTML allows for room for error, and maybe you call it error, maybe you don't call it error, but it is error as far as good SEO or good management of your on-page content, is that you're highlighting that text and you're doing like this thing where you put in bold and you put italics, and then maybe you're even doing this whole changing it color thing. And when you're talking about consistency in brands and also just making sure that it's pretty and nice and even, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't like you should just put H1, and if you want H1s to look different or be bolded different or look different, then you should call that from the style sheet, and you shouldn't sit here and like change it in the editor. It's not good practice to be going in here doing that, because notice all that stuff I just did when I went in there and did that. Watch when I go in here and look at the code. This is what you're getting. You're getting an H1, and you're doing this extra stuff around the edges, which is giving it the colors and making it bold and strong. And all you're doing is just adding more weight to the article, and of course, not really concentrating on your brand. And if you get used to this is H1 is like a way to like call a database and say, you know what does my H1 look like? Or in this case, you're actually saying H1. Style sheet, tell me what I'm supposed to look like, and that's how you should do anything in Joomla world or any content management system. Is you should call your style sheet and concern yourself with just basic elements, basic HTML elements inside of your articles, and not try to use the editor functions to try to style anything. You should call that from CSS style sheets.
Gary, people are attending the webinar from all over the world today and saying thank you. Doug has a question. Has a 301 an HT access? Is there any reason not to also use 301s within Joomla?
No, you can use both, either one. The common way, if you're an Apache user, is to do Apache web server user, which commonly Joomla or WordPress or Drupal sites are all hosted on a LAMP-based application, or a LAMP-based server, excuse me, and where Joomla is native to the .htaccess file, which assists in the rendering of a pretty URL structure. And yeah, you can do a 301 in the .htaccess file, or you can use Joomla. And what matters, and if you want to test, is receiving a response code from the server. And Google sees those response codes. They're called header responses, and web servers read this kind of stuff. And as long as if you would have typically got a 404, and rather than it getting a 404, and if you see a permanent 301. Either way, whether you do it through the plugin and the router system in Joomla, or you use the .htaccess file, which is actually using the server to do it, doesn't matter. Either way is fine.
Okay, and do one-way invisible links help? Walt asks. He has an invisible link to a bottom of a page.
Don't be doing anything sneaky. No. Get rid of that stuff. It doesn't help you.
Okay. All right. Mark asks, how important is the length of a domain name? 9 years. Registering is 9 years of the domain name.
Well, I think you're only allowed 26 characters in a domain name anyways, and it does not matter.
Okay. Let's see.
Age of domain name matters. So, and efficient, and how long it's been on the net. So, and it's different. It is Google does kind of look at like not only how long it's been registered, which is an indicator of just maturity of the domain name, and of course the associated property that's been there, that it's been relative. I imagine that there's some kind of calculation there. So I sometimes people who buy domain names and park them, I think it's useless to park a domain name. If you plan on parking a domain name, I think it's better not to do kind of like the parking, but actually physically put a physical actually launch like a Joomla site on the domain name and just leave it there, and put some sort of content on there, whether it's 1 or 2 pages or not. Build age on a domain name, build relevancy on that domain name, and I call it tenderizing the domain name. Parking, I don't even believe in parking. So if you're parking a domain name, I think you're just, like GoDaddy people park domain names for some fun reason and show GoDaddy ads, and it does nothing but help GoDaddy.
Okay. Getting a lot of questions about language. The language manager, language questions don't really relate with SEO.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They
Okay.
relate. I mean, Google is sensitive to multiple languages, and if your Google does have, we do have a Google in India, we do have a Google in China, and we have a Google in different parts of the country. And if you do have multiple languages, you're more likely to show up in an alternate search engine than not, or in dispense parts of the world. And so, if you're an international company and you're planning international SEO campaigns, you do want to plan your multi-language setup.
All right. Let's see. Trying to get back with some of the people directly myself. Let's see, Sandeep. So, well, we're talking about redirect. Sandeep, we can't jump into your website to help you with your redirects. If you're a client of ours, you can submit a support ticket, and we can help you. Tay asks, how does SEO view membership-only sites or a membership-only hub on a public site?
Well, if you got a membership-only site and the application is protecting the content, then there's nothing to do with SEO there. The only thing Google's going to look at is anything that it can see exterior that it can crawl.
Okay. A lot of people are asking, can you help me insert Facebook like buttons and things? And I'm trying to encourage them to attend a Learn the Basics webinar.
Yeah, attend the webinars, or some of those things you just do about 10 minutes worth of reading, and it's real simple. Typically, putting in those extensions.joomla.org for those social things. It's a plugin. Typically, you install it in your Joomla site, and then you put a little piece of snippet of code inside of the article that calls the share functions. So you would just need to install the plugin and then install the snippet of code inside of the editor area, and it'll display all those little fancy sharing and like buttons. Or Facebook does, I think, iframes. You have to look at that and see their code, but go to Facebook and find the code that they give you and insert it into the editor. And sometimes in Joomla you have to force the iframe to allow iframe code because of the security risk, and the CloudAccess.net team helps with things like that. So if you're not hosting with us, I'm sorry. But if you are with us, then those are the types of things we assist with. We help with the application layer, not just the hosting layer.
Hey, is it possible to restrict Google from indexing the information they want? We really can't tell Google what to do, right?
Oh yeah, we can. It's called nofollow, and it's a meta tag, and we do have that inside of Joomla directly. So if you look on the right-hand side of the article here, you can do here. See this drop-down menu? You can do index follow, index no index follow, index no follow, and so you could tell the bots what to do, and they listen to this stuff.
Okay. And actually, we have quite a good description on that in our knowledge base, one of our articles. Let's see. Ben just wanted to comment that he's been using the Cloud-Based 2.0 template for a while.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. Naval is asking if we can discuss his problem individually with him. And Naval, if you do have a hosting package with CloudAccess.net, we love to help people fix their Joomla sites.
Yeah.
So
our whole team is trained, and we all know search engine optimization. So the knowledge that I fed you guys, I happen to be one of the leaders in the company here. So I mean, I train the staff the same way that I have whatever I have lock and loaded in this brain, I try to dispense among the team. So it's good to work with CloudAccess.net if you're hosting applications. That's the benefit of not just working with some generic hosting company.
Kenneth is trying to build on a question I think we already discussed about videos in the YouTube channel. Kenneth, if you could expand upon that question, I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. That'd be great. A lot of people are saying thank you, Gary. I'm trying to get through the thank yous to actual questions. Not that that information isn't appreciated. Ekalesh wants to know a little bit more about robots.txt.
Robots.txt is just a generic way to control the robots. They read the robots file, and best bet if you're concerned about dealing or associating yourself with dealing with the robots text file, you need to go read about the robots text file, and it's just a way you can control the bots. It's a lot like how I showed you in Joomla here how to control the bots. It's an exterior way to Joomla to be able to manage the bots.
Okay, Gary, I think we've gotten to all questions except one. 2.5 hours into the webinar, Naval asks, how to optimize search engines for different languages. I think you already touched upon that, didn't you?
Yeah, it's no different. It's just a different language. You have to architect the multiple languages into the system, and somehow Google has to crawl in, and when it crawls the links, it has to see that they're, a physical, it's a physical thing. Like when you have a multiple language on your site, and if you just use core Joomla and you put the language selector up top, then when Google crawls in and it sees your index page and all of a sudden sees this little language selector thingy gadget and it crawls down and it's going to see a different language, it's going to automatically do the interpretation and say, cool, another language, let's go.
Hey, Kenneth did build upon his question with videos. Is it better to embed or to link externally?
It doesn't matter. My personal opinion right now is if you're trying to do anything with videos and search engine optimization is that the only videos I've seen in YouTube, and that could be wrong, this is one of my 95% answer questions, is that if you upload your videos to YouTube, that YouTube and Google are the same company, and that the likelihood of a video showing up under standard results, like under organic results, is going to be, if you upload them to YouTube, you're probably going to see the possibility of them showing up under organic results compared to not. So if you host them yourself, I've never seen a self-hosted video show up inside of the index.
All right. Gary, I think we're out of questions.
Holy smokes. Great.
2 hours and 30 minutes. I would like to thank everyone for attending and remind you that this webinar is going to be posted. It takes a few hours to archive, but it will be posted to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/cloud access. And Gary wants to let you know that you can also tweet him a question at Gary J. Brooks. If you'd like a little bit more help, a lot of people saying thank you. And Frank says, nice job, thank you. Bill says, can you repeat again how I change my website title? That's going to be in the global configuration area of your Joomla site. You can see a site title option.
Well, so Bernie, remember that one? That one is going to be based on page by page. So if it's the front page one, you have to figure out how your menu item is connected to the front page. Okay, so if your menu item is connected to like a featured article system, then you probably have to go back to the menu item area and remember. I'll just quickly go in here. It's always the titles are in weird locations. Joomla's got so many weird title locations. So when I click on Home here on the menu system, it's going to be like, do you see here link title? Here it could be here. Or it could be you want to go look at your page title itself. It's going to be in one of those two locations, and it's really just dependent on how you hinge the menu item to that article. And but if it's like these other ones that I created, it was rendering the title from the title that I put in the article directly.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, that's it for questions. Thank you all for attending. We are going to be running this webinar again at some other point in the future. And stay tuned. Come to cloudaccess.net, go to the Webinars tab, and we have a variety of different webinars again coming up in the future. Yep. Take care, everybody.